Good evening, everyone. This topic, so I think every generic company goes through a challenge of what product we should do to be successful in business. I think that's the dilemma that we all deal with. So I think Mr. Rambabu asked me to speak about what is the right strategy to build a very good generic business. So I think I can tell you about my journey. I think that's the best way I can, explain how we have strategized and the products that we did, and what was the thinking that was behind these products, and how we have come to the stage that we have come. So in that way, maybe I can explain how we think about it and what would work in this business. First of all, as you know, this business is super competitive. Not only we compete with our friends in India, we also compete with Western peers as well. And now, I think as you're aware, I think India has become a more dominant player in this business. And so essentially, we have challenges with quality and all, but I think generally when we compete abroad, especially in the regulated market, all of us have reasonably good quality and all of us are well run, everybody's well financed. How do you work in a market where everybody does good quality, reasonably? Of course, there are some exceptions, but for most part, and you are running a global scale company, and you have to compete and still somehow make money and spend money on R&D. So if I can just go to the next slide, please. It's here. Oh. So I can operate from here. Yeah. Just press the green button.
This is next.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, as I said, I've split the presentation between Indian successes and global successes. So about us, our revenue has been about $500 million. And we are one of the top 10 companies in Canada, and our primary markets are US, Canada, India, and Brazil. And recently we have acquired the second largest company in South Africa, Natco Pharma. So we have taken our revenue to almost $1 billion. So what did we do? So I can just start with imatinib. So I think this is one of the most quoted patent case in our business. So I'll just give you a story of how it actually happened. Yeah. Okay. So I think when at that time the patent for a polymorph was granted to Novartis, which was an evergreening strategy of Novartis in 2003. At that time we were a very modest firm. So we launched a generic of that product, and we had no choice but not to leave the market because that was almost 10% of, or 15-20% of our revenue. And so the innovator product was selling about 1,20,000, and we launched it at 18,000. We brought it down to 10,000. Eventually, it's now down and sells for about 1,500, 2,000 rupees. And everybody got injuncted because we took an aggressive position in the court and saying that this is an evergreening product. And that's how we started doing litigation. That was the first litigation that we did. And it became a landmark case. We went all the way to the Supreme Court, and in the end, we won, and then we were able to, make this product available at that time. Otherwise, if it was patented, there wouldn't have been a generic for almost 14 years. So I think that made a lot of difference to people. As I said, any business philosophy should run. First thing you should always think is, do I make a difference? By launching what I'm doing, am I able to do something that nobody is able to offer, and am I able to make a difference? That's the first rule in any business. If you're able to do that, you'll always make money. I think that's the fundamental rule. And as long as you're willing to do something unique and hard, and do at a global scale. It's very important that you do things at a global scale and not think about just India. You should not say, okay, fine, this is India, let's do a shortcut way, let's get the approval, and let's somehow manage things and all. That should never be the approach. I think you should always do a high quality work. I can sell it in India, the same product I can sell in the US, I can sell in Brazil, I can sell in Canada. That's the approach that you have to take. Once you take that approach and that level of quality and that level of strategy, then you'll always do well, not only in India, you'll do well globally. So another one is sorafenib. Everybody thought India will never issue a compulsory license, and we filed it. Their product was at 3 lakhs. We did a compulsory license at 8,000. We went through the litigation, went to the Supreme Court. Incidentally, this product was never developed for India. We actually developed this for US for a para 4. Then I got this idea, you know what, why don't we do this? And again, you make a difference, everything has a way of working out. And I think the biggest change what compulsory license did was it has made innovators aware that you cannot launch products at very high prices and that you have to make things affordable. And so that's why they have strategies where they give voluntary license to Indian companies, which allow that. I think that is probably the biggest impact that we've had. More than that product, it is the social impact that they had on subsequent products that came along. Again, something unique that you can't normally think about. I think you always have to think a little bit outside the box. And this is, again, Resdiplam. Same product, we developed it for the US. Again, we extended it for India. We found a loophole in the patent. And that product sells for 6 lakhs a bottle per month. We launched it for 15,000 rupees a month. So if you do something and impact society and do the right product, you always have a way of working things out. So I'd also like to speak about some of our global successes as well. And I think this product is the brand product of Teva called Copaxone. For many years, people thought no generic is possible. And this is Teva, the biggest company in the world. It is, nobody can make a generic version. They're very smart. You can't work with them, all that stuff. So when I used to pitch this product to a lot of people, everyone used to say, this is never going to happen. This is a foolish idea. Why are you even doing this? But I also found someone who really, how do I say this, also disliked Teva a lot. So he said, no, Rajeev, we're going to go after those guys. So I met Viatris, and they said, no, we're going to do this. We're going to take your product, and we'll take it global. And we filed this product. We started in 2006. We were filing in 2009. FDA itself took 8 years to approve the product. And we had to go back to the drawing board multiple times. They would ask queries and say, no, this is not how we have to do it. This is not the limit that you have to do. And then we had to fix it and go back. I think the biggest learning in here is that you may not get things right the first time, but you need to work with the regulator, fix whatever you need to do to get a quality product. I think regulators want access to generics. As long as you're willing to fulfill that criteria, they're willing to approve you. When we launched it, there was another company which was ahead of us called Sandoz, who filed before us. But luck could have it, they got into a warning letter to the US manufacturing facility. We ended up being the first generic, and we ended up doing very well. And for Viatris of Mylan, it was very important because it was the supremacy of the generic business that they wanted to establish. While this product became generic, it made Teva weaker and Mylan more competitive. And it was a strategic decision by the CEO at that time of Mylan to do this. And in the end, he was vindicated by this product. So I think the journey that I'm trying to tell you is that you should always do peptides are something that nobody wanted to do because everybody felt it was difficult to do. But you have to have the sort of the commitment. And even if it takes 7, 8 years, the reward would be so large, it would more than compensate for the time that you have spent. Another one is a compound challenge in the US, Tamiflu. Everybody said this challenge is not possible. Again, we found a partner who's willing to do this challenge. And nobody believes this story. We probably spent 2 crores on the exhibit batch, did the batch, filed it with the FDA. Litigation was done by our partner. We ended up making 1,000 crores when we launched it for 180 days. And nobody believes it. It is only, you can put 2 and make 1,000. It is possible. You just have to have the vision that it will work. And always when people think, oh, this will not work, there's a chances of success are like 10%, only then I get very excited. If somebody says chance of success is 80, 90%, I don't like it at all. Because I believe when you say it's 80, 90%, everybody will do it. In the end, they'll destroy the margin. The more unlikely the event is going to happen, the more likely you'll make money. I think that is always a contrarian way of thinking of it. That's how it works. And again, one of the biggest things, I'm rightly putting all the presentation where I got things right. There are a dozen things I didn't get right as well. So that I'm not going to put on the presentation. But I think you need to have the ability to take failure. I think one of the biggest cultural things that we need to teach our children or anyone is to take a no or take a failure. When you don't get something right, accept it and then take the learnings from it and go forward. And it's the biggest learning I've always had is I never get upset when something doesn't go right. You have to get the right product. If it means the journey is going to take longer, you should accept that journey. And this is another product, I think, liposomal doxorubicin. This is a degradably injectable, and it had a complex bio study. And one of the scientists who worked on it, Dr. Rambo, is here. So, so I think he was part of that journey. We worked with Dr. Reddy's with that, and we took it to US, and we got a success there. And Revlimid is one of the earliest oncology products which we did very well. So I think if you're willing to take risk and do things where the chances of success are low, but you have the determination and work, you'll always get success. And I think one of the biggest, I think Dr. Satya Garu was mentioning about the biotech investments. One of the biggest ones that I did, which I'm very excited about, is the CRISPR-Cas9 genetic engineering. I think we invested in a company, the first company in the world, which is transplanted a pig kidney into human being. And hopefully I will be able to bring it to India. I'll come to Dr. Rajeev Raghuvanshi once things pick up. I think the partner in the US wants more phase 1 data before he goes global. And it's amazing. I mean, if you think of it, if you're able to find a kidney in a pig, which you can use for humans, you will resolve all kidney and liver transplant issues, because today we don't have organ. A lot of people die and in stage diseases. And everybody said this is a crazy idea. It'll never work. Luckily I gambled 8 million. We own some reasonable percentage of that company. And now we have had 3 patients who have done it. But again, success has not happened. Again, I will say that, because all these patients, 2 of the patients, after 6 months had a rejection. So now the journey now is to figure out what is the right dose of the immunosuppressant which allows it for the patient to survive beyond 6 months. So the journey themselves, it's going to be a long, arduous journey. It's not like I dose the patient recovered, 90% recovery. It doesn't happen. The learning curve is always slow and painful, but the reward in the end is also very, very high. And I think we need to accept that the journey is going to be long and that you're going to have some bottlenecks. But every journey teaches you something that you learn that you can build on. And that's true in generics, it's true in innovation. And I think as long as we're willing to go to that journey and build companies and do things at a global scale, never think about it. If you just think about India and let me just manage this and get it done, you'll never be able to build a global company. I think that's the lesson I have learned, and the lesson I like to share with all of you. Thank you so much.